Good morning, one and all. I say good morning because this will be going out at 9 o'clock on the Monday morning, the morning after the night before, which is Burns night. When every Scotsman worth his salt eats haggis, neeps and tatties. Well, I do have a little Scottish blood in me, although my main feeling is Welsh because that's where the ancestors, I think on my side of the family, tend to come from. On my mother's side, I should say. So I'm more Welsh in attitude, but I do like a bit of haggis. And I can't stand neeps, turnips, sweet turnip, call them what you like. So I am going to make my own Burns night meal. And as you can see, there's an assortment of tins on the side there. Yes, I could use fresh ingredients and you would retain more of the vitamins and minerals from those, but for a casserole, tinned is quite acceptable. And I have got a couple of fresh ingredients, bit of fresh tomato, bit of onion, and of course there's minced beef, bacon, and for the first time I found in Asda proper butcher's haggis. Now when I make a steak and haggis casserole I normally use Grant's tinned, which is excellent, but it don't beat a traditional Scottish butcher's haggis. And this is very tasty, I can assure you, because I've already had a couple of slices for breakfast on a couple of mornings, and I've sliced it up and grilled it very well. But this is the centrepiece of the meal. There we go, lovely, lovely haggis. And I am now going to put it where it belongs. I'm not going to chop it up. It's going in the centre of the slow cooker, because what will happen as everything cooks around it, it will dissolve and then we'll eventually mix it with the other ingredients. Very tasty. I would recommend for your breakfast bacon what I have now. Alright, I buy Asda's, but other bacons I'm sure are available, but I buy the stuff that's free from nitrites. It's got nothing added to it except a bit of salt for the dry, for the curing, and then it's properly oak smoked, as opposed to the normal cheaper stuff you get, which probably has a liquid smoke flavour added to it. Right, here we go. Chop an onion up. Everybody will be telling me out there, that's not the way you chop an onion. Well, there are many ways to chop an onion, and everybody does it to their own personal choice. I prefer to chop them up like that because the bits will separate. The bits will separate on cooking quite easily. I mean, a professional chef would have chopped about 6 onions by now. I'm a very simple cook. When I do cook, which is not that often, not properly like this, but I do like to cook every now and again. I always take, I don't know why, I always take the stalk out of tomatoes. This is just a little baby tomato that I've got left over because I've got a tin of chopped tomatoes here to go in the casserole. But it is nice to put fresh in. And again, although I've got a tin of mushrooms, I am going to, because I grill my mushrooms in the morning, what I do is I take the stalks off, and the stalks can be used in cooking later. They go nice in a gravy. You just fry them up a little bit and they go nice in a gravy when you're having sausages. So let's deal with them next. Well, the only problem I find with doing some of this type of casseroles, especially when I'm putting a lot of ingredients in like this, it's just time consuming, because obviously you're going to cook it in a slow cooker and that's going to take several hours, and when, like now, the morning's already half over because I've had other household chores and things to do, I won't be eating the meal tonight. This will be my Burns night meal for tomorrow. So it's not quite so bad, but anyway, there is my chopped fresh ingredients: mushroom stalks, tomato and onion, and I will deal with those in just a moment, because now we're coming to the problem. I don't have a lot of preparation space in my kitchen. That's part of the problem. So I need to move this. Yes, I know the cooker needs a bit of a clean, that will be done. But I ain't going to put on any fancy airs and graces just because of the fact that I'm rather stupidly doing another cooking video. But the bad thing is, some people ask for it, and I really can't see why. Anyway, what we got here is a nice ½ pound of lovely, well, that's been in the freezer, was fresh butcher's steak mince. Excuse me. And this just needs to be browned off in the frying pan. I've already made a gravy, which is in this cup here, just a little bit. I made it nice and thick so when it goes in I can add a bit more water to it. I use Asda beef stock cubes. I mix them with Asda reduced salt gravy granules for meat and onion gravy granules, and I find that makes for a nice tasty gravy. Some of this is going to my young grandson Oscar, so I've not made the gravy with beer. Normally when I do a casserole and it's just for me, I never use water in the gravy. I only ever use an ale, like a Harvey's Old Ale or Harvey's Christmas Ale, because that makes a nice tasty gravy. I know the alcohol, they say the alcohol boils out when you do the cooking, but the taste is still there, and Oscar's only 10. I really don't want him to get a taste for alcoholic drinks. The time will come when he will be old enough to sort these things out for himself, but I don't want to be responsible for giving him a taste of alcohol. What was that I was saying? About butcher's steak mince, I can't remember. But, yes, there's not a lot of fat in it, which is rather nice if you have to watch your intake. See, it's one of the things I've found about, although I am no longer diabetic as such, I'm still classified as diabetic. I am what they call pre-diabetic. And I potentially will never come off of that, but what I hope is that by manipulating what I'm eating, I can at least keep myself diet controlled. Now, one of the things I've learned was that technically nothing is off the table. Nothing is off the table. However, you do need to make sure that what you eat is in proportion to your daily allowances and what have you. So I know nowadays most people who are in the same position, what they get told is measure your carbohydrates. Well, I've never done that, it's too much of a bother. But having said that, I do measure my portion sizes. Going at most vegetables and fruits, one of your 5 a day is 80 grams. So I try and base my food intake during the day on a minimum of 5 a day. The only thing I will warn you of is everything, if you eat tomatoes, fresh tomatoes, you can have 2 tomatoes and that counts as 2 of your 5 a day. There are 2 things that you mustn't exceed really the measurements for. One is baked beans, although 80 grams of baked beans doesn't look very much on the plate, but it'll cover a slice of toast quite nicely. If you eat any more than that, it still only counts as 1 of your 5 a day, and of course you're increasing your intake of protein and fibre. Now the fibre might be okay, but you don't really want to have too much protein all in one go. And the other thing is fruit juices. Although they're not recommended for you, you can have 150 ml of a fruit juice instead of having a solid fruit one day. But any more than that, still only 1 of your 5 a day, and of course you've got concentrated sugars and everything in it, so you need to be a little bit mindful of that. But in my breakfast of the morning I usually have 2 tomatoes, I have my 80 grams of baked beans, I have my 80 grams of mushrooms, and that's 4 of my 5 a day before I started. And it makes a really lovely breakfast. And according to my diabetic nurse, if I want to have a piece of grilled bacon, I've got a George Foreman open griddle here which cooks the breakfast beautifully. I don't need to use the frying pan or anything. And you can have an egg, because the egg gives you protein. So you can have a really good cooked breakfast, and it's a healthy breakfast, especially for diabetics. And then you choose what you have the rest of the day. I don't have a big meal at lunchtime. I will have a bowl of soup or cheese and biscuits, and then in the evening I have another meal with obviously measured portions of veg and what have you, and maybe a bit of fruit afterwards. So I don't think in general that I exceed my limits. And for the last 2 or 3 years, touch wood, at least, my test results have come out reasonably steadily. I go up and down by a little bit each time, but nothing too drastic, thank goodness. What I'm going to do here, because there's not a lot of fat in that meat, and I do need to brown these things up a bit, I'm just going to put 3 little squirts of vegetable oil in there. That's all I need, just 3 squirts. And then I'm just bringing these all together so they're all nice and softened. Don't need to really brown the onions, just enough in there to soften them. And the meat will be nicely browned by then as well. We'll soften the mushroom stalks, soften the onions, and then that will be ready to go into the air fryer, slow cooker. I've just realised can't see what I'm doing in the crock pot, but this kitchen is too small and I don't have sophisticated camera equipment like some of these people with these tiny little cube cameras and expensive arty-farty things. I'm not knocking them. If they are lucky enough to be able to afford them and they're able to use them properly, I think it's brilliant. There's some lovely videos out there made with all this modern technology. I'm steam powered. I use either my Panasonic or my Canon, the little old-fashioned SD camera, sort of one up from the old video cassette things that they used to have. And then what was it? Oh yeah, CD, DVD things, those little 3-inch discs that you used to record onto. And these are just really one step up from them. I've had them a good number of years. And I'm one of these old school people, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. These do the job nice. And I've not yet found a modern day equivalent that will zoom like my cameras do. And if you can't zoom, as far as I'm concerned, I don't want to know. Anyway, this is now going into the slow cooker. All very nicely. Dropping in around and about. Cool, that bacon, the smell of that bacon is overpowering. Anyhow, there we go. That's those vegetables put in there. We'll put a drop of washing up liquid in the frying pan. Fill that up and let it soak. Oh. Now, what else have we got? We have got chopped tomatoes. Well, they can go straight in. They can go straight in, look at that. What else we got? Ah, yes. Tin mushrooms. Just drop them in all round, yeah. Jolly good. Now I think before I put anything else in, I'll deal with the potatoes. Now, yes, you could use fresh, and I will admit I'm being a bit lazy here by using tinned. Nothing particularly wrong with tinned. There is a note on the tin that says you can't freeze them, but I think you'll find once you've cooked them, say as part of a casserole, there's no problem. There'll be no problem in freezing the casserole, because I should be freezing quite a fair bit of this. That's a few meals over the next couple of weeks or so. I'll be back when I've done this. Sweet corn, I find Green Giant, salt free, lovely, lovely sweet corn, and it goes very well indeed into a casserole. The cooker's on, I've got it on high for now. I've got to get some heat in there, get the thing started building up. Once that haggis starts to break down, everything will be fine and dandy. Now, I'm just going to poke those ingredients down the side. This has got to be one of the fullest pots I've ever made. It's just the haggis. Right, now, gravy. Like I said, I've made it nice and thick. And what I'm now going to do, I'm going to add some more water to it, and then that will dissipate down. There we go. Can't really stir any of it yet. not until it started cooking and the haggis has started to break up, but we'll just basically push the ingredients around so the gravy can find its way down through. That will be fine. I'll probably need to add some more gravy granules in that as time goes on. Welcome back. Well, this thing's been cooking for about an hour now, and the haggis is beginning to separate. So I've had this on high for an hour. I'm going to leave it on high for another half an hour, and that will just get heat going through it. There's plenty of liquid in here at the moment, plenty of gravy. I may have to, well, I will have to put some more gravy granules in later on, I think, just to thicken it up a bit. But in the meantime, everything's coming together very nicely. You have to stir it every now and again because there's a risk of it sticking to the bottom. Now's the time to start adding seasonings, and I don't add a lot of fancy seasonings. I prefer to keep things nice and simple. I don't add salt, that's putting on at the end if you want salt. But I do like to put a nice generous helping of fresh crushed black pepper, and there is nothing like a good helping of mixed herbs, and this particular mixture is thyme, marjoram, yeah. What did I just say about marjoram? Some people like to put marjoram in without any of the others, but they do. It does go well with thyme, sage, oregano is a mix here, parsley and basil. So, as I said, although I wouldn't necessarily put the others in on their own, I do like this particular mix of herbs because I think you need a few herbs to just get that bit of extra flavour in there, that bit of extra seasoning, especially within the gravy. Let's just wipe that off of there. And you give them a good old mixing in, and then you let it continue cooking, and the flavours from those herbs and the heat of the pepper begins to settle in there. As I say, the gravy isn't yet savoury enough for my liking, but not quite there yet, but I think there's enough herbs for the time being. I'll hold fire on the gravy. We'll wait and see how all those flavours mix in together, because at the moment the strongest flavour I'm getting is of that damn bacon, and I don't want the flavour of that bacon to overshadow everything, so I'm hoping that as the rest of it starts to cook and the flavours mix together, that flavour will tone down a bit. If not, I'll have to work maybe some more herbs, more gravy granules or another stock pot, and just tone that flavour down a bit so we get more of the mixture of all the different flavours. And that's the thing, it's a balance. It's a balance. And that's where you can't just bung everything into here and let it cook on its own. Well, you can. But you know, if you want something that you are going to enjoy, you will have to adjust things as the cooking goes on, add your own bits and pieces, add your own seasonings, and at the end of the day, it's seasoning that suits you, really, or that you feel any dinner guests would like. I suppose you could call it part of the art of cooking. Well, if it's the art of cooking, then I'm certainly no artist, but I know what I like, and I'm going to cook this so that at the end of the day I can sit down and have a lovely meal and thoroughly enjoy it. And I won't have to worry about cooking any vegetables or anything to go with it. You won't need pasta or anything like that because you've got taters in here. You don't need any extra taters, you don't need any pasta. The carbohydrate is in the taters, in the casserole. So it's all there when will be a complete meal when it's done. Back later when we do a bit more. Well, I'm back and I have decided that we definitely need some more seasoning. So there's another lot of black pepper going in there, and we're going to put another lot of herbs in there, and I think I'm going to put one more. Come here with the packet. I think like a recalcitrant gravy cube. I'm going to put one more gravy cube in there, and probably more granules later, but for now. Right, there we go. Just bung that in. Unlike OXO cubes, this is more like a paste feel to the hand. I've got to think about this one. Boy, I've got to think about this one. Obviously, I didn't think I'd put too much bacon in. I thought I'd just put enough to balance the taste out, but still getting that overtaste of bacon that I really need to work out how I'm going to deal with that. I'll have a think and we shall return later. Process. I'm going to put some more gravy granules in. This will have obviously the dual effect. It will thicken the gravy obviously, but also make the gravy a bit darker, a bit more savoury. This is what I'm trying to get, this savoury taste. I know what it's missing. I know what it's missing. It's missing one vital seasoning, and that is salt. But I prefer to put the salt in afterwards, because especially if I was having somebody else round to eat, I don't know what they do about salt, but I could put a lot, I could put salt in this, and then they put it on their plate and put a whole lot more salt on, and salt's not, you need it, but it's not overly good for you in quantity. And I've made an executive decision. This is simmering away quite nicely now. It's taken a long time to start simmering. This is where you've got to be a bit careful, and where you've got to make sure you keep stirring it. Otherwise some of it can scrape on the bottom, but I have decided to make sure I've got the right ones, haven't I? Good job, I looked at that again. I don't really want mint in there. Mixed herbs, that's the one we want. And we'll put some more mixed herbs in there, because I think we're going to need the mixed herbs to counteract and just give it that seasoning, extra seasoning that it needs. And this is the thing with casserole cooking. I mean, some people don't like seasonings, they don't like herbs and spices and things like that, but I think when you're making a dish like this, you've got to season it. Okay, you don't necessarily need salt in it, but you do need a bit of pepper, and you do need herbs. And as I said earlier on, you can choose which herbs you put in there. Some people like to use a single herb, others like me like to use mixed herbs. And you can use fresh or dried, whichever you like. Now that has definitely lifted the flavour a bit. Ooh. Ooh. Now, the taste of the haggis is beginning to come through. That is getting very tasty. There's a bit of, take a bit of taper with it as well. Right, that's it. Oh, it's hot. But that is now spot on. Well, we're back. It's the morning after the night before, as they say. And in here is one gooey mess that's actually had the time overnight to cool down and all those lovely flavours coagulate. The only thing I didn't put in here was peas. There just wasn't enough room for them. Normally I put peas in a casserole as well. But you can always add them on the side as an extra vegetable. So, first thing I've got to do, my 10-year-old grandson Oscar, hello Oscar, he absolutely loves the steak and haggis pies I buy from Brownings the Bakers in Scotland. Now, I'm not paid to advertise them. There are plenty of other excellent bakers in Scotland, I know that for a fact. But I buy mine from them because I like them, and I have to give Oscar one. As soon as I get my delivery, Oscar has to have one. So he was keen to try my own steak and haggis concoction. So the first thing I'm going to do this morning is to label him out a little portion. I'll give him a couple of dollops because what he can't eat, he can always have another time, although I don't think I would recommend reheating this stuff. So he's got a healthy appetite, so we'll just give him that much, and he's going to pick that. Oh, during his address to the haggis, Burns, when the knives had plucked the haggis asunder and it's opened up and the man wafts inside and he gives the line, warm reeking and rich. That's the kind of smell I'm getting now. Wish you had smell-o-vision really. Anyway, I'm going to get a dinner plate because I obviously need to take the thumbnail. So you see me dishing it up here. I mean, it's full of all good things. It looks like a mess, I know, but there's, as you know, there's haggis in there, there's bacon, there's steak, sweet corn, carrots, tomatoes, onions, mushrooms. So it's all full of good stuff, and I reckon, no, I don't want to eat too much of it. I think that will do for a nice plateful this evening. I don't know if you can see that. Let's try and bring the plate pull up. There it is. That is my Burns night dinner tonight. Sorry for the shake, that's my heart medication does that. But that's it. And now I'm going to ladle out. I'm probably going to get at least half a dozen portions out of this, and they can go in the freezer. And when you're living on your own, this is the way to do it really. Batch cook. It gives you, I mean, even if you eat them at one meal a week, that's nearly 2 months. You've got one of each week's meals done. It's tasty, and I've already got the ingredients in the freezer for the next one. I've just bought another haggis. I've still got some steak mince. I won't use bacon next time, but yeah. So that's it. Now if you live on your own, I recommend invest in a slow cooker and make your own casseroles and stews and all sorts of stuff, and it really does help. And the advantage is you know what's going in it. So anyway, there we are. I bored you stiff. I promise you this will probably be the last cooking video I ever do, so if you're still here, thank you for watching. Hopefully, I say hopefully, I shall be back in the model railway room for next time. I've got a plan as to where stuff is going to go now. It's just a question of the timing. I've got such a lot on over the next couple of weeks. But I'll do my best. And next week, of course, the video will be another release from my travels. So I'm looking forward to editing whatever it is I've got in stock.